Hello everyone. So some of you will have realised this video you're about to watch, it was taken down today by myself. The reason being that I've made an error, and thankfully I put it up very late last night or early hours of the morning, and Dom from Dom Fishing UK watched it and sort of put me right, and that is that you can't fish drains during river season or river closed season. So really I've took it down to add this in the beginning to say ignore what I say in regards to fishing drains. It's inaccurate. You can't fish them at all. For some reason I've got it in my head you could fish them, but only sections of it during the closed season, and I'm very wrong. So rather than leave it up and everybody commenting the same thing, I just thought I'd address it now so you haven't got to message me about it later. For those of you who dropped some comments in there, I do apologise. By all means, if you drop the comments back in again, I will get back to you and yeah, have a chat with you. So in a bit. Howdy everyone, I hope you're all well. I'm just going to do a little video based around some information I think needs to be addressed. Predominantly because over the last couple of weeks I've had the same few questions fired at me from quite an array of anglers. So a couple of questions that have worried me, and the other questions I suppose are just sort of people may not know, may not be aware or 100% sure of what that is. So as you'll have seen in the title, one of the main things is river close season for England and Wales, and then the other one I've been asked quite a few times is when is pike spawning season? What is pike spawning season? Slight misconception that it only takes a few days for the pike to spawn. Massively wrong. But also, well, what was the other one? Do I need certain licenses? You know, why have you been saying your pike rod's down? Things like this. So I think first and foremost, let's address the river close season. So yes, there is a England and Wales national river and river close season. I'm not sure about Scotland. I've never been that way, so I've never had to look. So I couldn't tell you if Scotland adhered to the same. I really don't know. However, for us, yes, there is a traditional river close season that runs from March the 15th to June the 15th, and that has been in place for 150 years or 148 years, and that has never changed. The only thing that has changed, to be fair, is that a few years ago now, it used to be it was a closed season across the board. You could not put anything into water for that same period. That's changed, and they've kept it on just rivers only. So what that does mean is you can fish sort of private pools, reservoirs, lakes, canals, drains, that sort of a thing. However, you still need to check in your area if a canal or a drain is connected to a river system. There will be a section of that water system that you can't fish because it's linked to a river. So be careful on that one, because people do get caught out. So during close season, you can still actually fish the rivers. However, you can't go for coarse fish. It has to be trout or salmon. So if you're fishing for salmon, you have to have a salmon fishing license. I think it's the same for sea trout actually. I'm not sure, because I've never fished for them. And you can also fish for wild trout, brown trout, rainbow trout. What it does specify though is you have to use specific lures and specific baits, so that you're kind of ruling out other fish. You are potentially going to accidentally catch other styles of fish whilst you're fishing for trout or for salmon, so long as you're not sort of fishing for that species on purpose other than trout and salmon, you're fine. But also that you've got to make sure you have got a rod license to start off with. Just get that from the post office or from the .gov.uk site. But yeah, just 100% make sure your local places. So for instance, to me there's a Himley Hall. It's a day ticket venue. It's run by the council. They still impose a closed season, or they did do. I'm not sure about this year, but there's quite a few places you find. Usually it's to do with your local council. They will still impose a closed season because I think it's the right thing to do. The reason there's a closed season is it allows fish to have enough time, basically from the very beginning to the very end. They should spawn somewhere within that period of time. Obviously, all fish are not calendar conscious. They're not going to know, oh, guys and girls, it's the 15th, let's get on with it. It doesn't happen that way. Most fish are temperature set or pressure set of the water predominantly. Once it reaches certain temperatures, the fish know, it clicks in and they go into overdrive, and then they get their spawn. What I don't know is, I don't know if some fish can spawn a few times in a season. I don't see why not. I've heard rumours of it before, but again, not something I really paid attention to. And I think, yeah, it's one of those things that if you really look into it, you'll get the information you need. Then I think the main thing that has come across is pike season and pike spawning. And obviously this is very close to home to me, because pike are my passion, if you like, in fishing. Whenever I try any other sort of fishing, I'm constantly thinking about pike. So the main question I've been asked is, why have you stopped pike fishing? Well, I've stopped pike fishing because in traditional times they are now spawning. That's not to say that they're spawning where I am, but they're not spawning somewhere else in Yorkshire or I don't know, down in Essex. Every venue will be different. I don't mean hundreds of miles apart, even 20 miles apart. I mean, before now, I've been on a canal a couple of years ago, and there's quite a few pounds, and I've literally seen 1 pound spawning, 2 pounds down, they're not spawning, and so on and so on. So every venue will be different. The traditional sort of pike season is sort of late February to late April. Again, that's because it gives them a huge amount of time to be able to spawn. Now, obviously, the misconception I've heard a few people say now is, well, they've spawned within a couple of days, haven't they? Well, no, they haven't. They'll probably take a few days, if not a week or more, just pairing up. So their behaviour is, the boys sort out the girls, the boys then chase around with the one girl, and then sort of the strongest males stay with the girl and the others drop off. They then spawn, or should I say she then spawns, and then move on. What I'm not sure of is if pike can produce again in same season. I'm sure there's some more clever people out there will know than me. But again, one pike might be spawning in the same stretch. The other 5 female pike in the same mile stretch, for instance, may not spawn until later in the month. You just don't know. And that is purely why they give all fish a close season or a spawning season date being so wide apart. So yeah, for me, it's safer to put the rods down. I do not fish for pike during spawning season, and this rule will apply to any fish during spawning season. So if, for instance, if I'm pike fishing and I've hooked a pike that's full of eggs and has not spawned, the potential is that fish will then not spawn. She will not, because of stress, she will not release the eggs, or I've pulled her away from the male pike that were with her, and she doesn't spawn. The offset to that potentially is that the eggs that are inside the fish, they all go rotten. That then infects the fish. Excuse me. As the fish is then infected, that fish then potentially dies. And that's then the X amount of eggs that she could have produced for the next year's generation to come along. That hasn't happened. And that's the same principle for all of the species. So carp, rudd, roach, tench, eels. Actually, eels are not in this country for spawning, but you know what I mean. So yeah, that's why I don't fish for pike during spawning season, is for the welfare of said fish, but also so that the next generation of pike can come through. If you're going to go fishing for whatever species of fish during their spawning time, I really do think you're an idiot, because it's just an awful thing to do, really. So yeah. And then the other bit of information I was going to put on really is just to give you an idea on a few different breeds of fish and their spawning times. Quite a few are the same sort of time. I've done a list, so bear with me, my eyes jumping up and down. I've only got a few, but I feel it's like the key ones really. So salmon and trout, their spawning is November to January. Perch is April to May, but also roughly 8 to 10 degrees. Carp, predominantly April to August. But again, carp, I'm sure I've seen carp spawning in a certain venue a couple of times anyway, but then that could just be one fish. Roach, predominantly April to June and are 18 to 20 degrees is their preference. Zander is April to June or anything over 12 degrees roughly, and they'll start to spawn. Rudd is the end of May to late July or 14 to 23 degrees. And pike, as we spoke about, is February to late April or 6 to 12 degrees. One thing I find actually within nature itself is pike are pretty keyed up. So they have their spawn, or they spawn even, to produce their young that much more before all the coarse fish come along and produce their spawn. The reason being is they're setting their young ones up ready to start predating on the new spawn from the other fish, which is well, it's clever. It's not a learned behaviour, I suppose, but it's well, I suppose it must be. Yeah, that's why they're one of the first fish to spawn in the year, so that their fish or their young ones are already geared up to get on killing all the other fish really. So yes, and then other than that, guys, really it's just if you want any decent links, the ones I've noted down was the Canal and Rivers Trust. Obviously it's a big page, lots of information. The Environment Agency, but they'll then revert you back to .gov.uk, and there's loads of links off the back of that. And then go to like your local angling shops, Anglers on the Bank, ask them some questions if they don't mind talking to you. Social media platforms, I've got to be fair, a lot of social media, like YouTubers and Instagram guys now, and girls, sorry, are also, they're really interactive with you. I think a lot of people realise that if you set up a page, you need some form of communication one way or another. So it might be that someone has a YouTube channel and the comments are all shut down. You'll probably find that's because they prefer to communicate on Instagram. So yeah, just really, if there's anyone on social media, ask a question. It's what most of us are there for. And I think like most people, they'll always get back to you to give you some hints and tips. Just don't get asking them for where have you caught that pike from. You know, give me the 1 metre distance where you caught that fish from, because they're not going to tell you. And to be fair, neither would I. Unless I really know someone, I'm not going to tell you exactly where I've caught a fish. So yes, in a nutshell, guys, that's it. Bit of basic information. I hope I haven't bored you too much, and I hope that answers a few questions that have been sent my way. And anybody who needs it for future reference might want to use it again. So yeah, just really to recap, one, yes, there is a closed season in England and Wales, which is the 15th of March, the 15th of June. Yes, you need a rod licence for coarse fish. I think it's a 2 or a 3 rod licence, 30 or 45 pounds. Yes, you need a licence to fish for salmon, which is separate to your normal coarse fish licence. I've never looked at the cost, but it ain't gonna be cheap, I'm quite sure. Yes, you can fish pools, lakes, reservoirs, canals, drains, so long as they're not connected to the river during the river close season. And then yes, you can still fish the rivers, but for trout and salmon accordingly. Hopefully that's helped someone. If it helps 5 people, that's great. If not, I'm really sorry to have bored you, and I will catch you in a bit, guys.